The next half of the show. So are you ready for your next act of Excellent. Please put your hands together on the stage. Maxine Jones!
It's good to get out, isn't it? No, I'm not from round here. I'm from Stillorgan. Now, I moved here in 1990, and that was the year that Ireland did really well in the World Cup. I'm the only one here old enough to remember that. Now, I'm hopes older than most of you. And then I was living in Dalkey then, but I was pronouncing it Dalkey. No one corrected me. And at first I thought this was nice of them, and then I realised they enjoyed hearing me say it wrong. Because you hate us. With a deep underlying racial hatred. Kept secret from blowings like me. And this came home to me when Ireland was finally knocked out of the World Cup, and I asked if everyone would be supporting England now. That was the reaction I got. I had an Irish granddad who brought me up on rebel songs. Right? I hated the English. So I was about 7 and realised I was one. I was married to an Irishman for 6 years, and when I first moved here, I knew nothing of the history, the 800 years of English oppression, or as he now says, 806 years. And I have 3 sons. They hate me doing stand-up. One of them said, "Is it revenge?" At least shows they're aware of all the grief they've given me. If I go away, I don't tell them, or they plan things. And when I come back, I get this: "Where have you been? Why didn't you tell us where you were? Why didn't you ring?" I just shrug and got to my room. Like, they don't know where I am now. They think I went to Lidl. It's a strange place, though, right? You go in for bread and milk, and you come out with a wetsuit and a rubber-doo-doo. So my oldest son's at university in England, and he gets a bit of slagging for being Irish. Right? Potatoes mentioned a lot. He's asked, does he get up at potato pot? Ridiculous! No student gets up that early. And you've got a new theme park, haven't you, in County Meath, and the theme is a potato park. And in Dublin you've the Leprechaun Museum. Don't you want the world to take you seriously? So when I was in hospital having my first son, right, this nurse bent over me and she said, "What do you think you're doing? Coming over here stealing our men. Don't you know there's a man shortage in Dublin?" Well, I gave him back. It's quite hard bringing up 3 boys. You know, basically you're rearing 3 replicas of someone you don't like very much. Some days I download new software just with a message at the end that says you've been successful. But there's one thing my sons and I do have in common. Right, we all started growing facial hair at around the same time. But I found a way to feel good about my age. I only go to films with Helen Mirren in them. Because the women my age tend to be invisible. Right, it doesn't bother me. I like shoplifting. So 23 years I've lived in Ireland. And you know, when I first moved here, there were no motorways, there were no roundabouts, there was no road rage. My sister introduced road rage to Ireland. In 1991, I went to collect her from the airport, and this guy cut out in front of us, and she reached across me and hooted the horn. I went, "You don't do that here, Anna, it's not London." I needn't have worried. The guy in the car was just smiling and waving because he must know us. And it happened again a bit later, a similar thing. And so she said to me, "Okay, you hoot, I'll stare." But you don't do that, but you do now. Didn't know. But it's an English thing, isn't it, that stare? I do it if someone sneezes suddenly. So there were no shops, there was no Marks and Spencer's, didn't know where to buy my knickers. There was no Boots, didn't know where to get moisturiser. There's loads of face cream now, isn't there, for those of us who are getting a little older. So that would be everyone then. But women get anti-aging cream, men get anti-fatigue lotion. You know, they're not old, just a bit tired. And there was no, the shops, there was no Tesco, there was no Debenhams, there was no PC World, there was no Currys. Do you know, it was if it was a separate, independent country. And you didn't have so you're getting them actually, you're going to get postcodes to it, like England, like the long postcodes. Because it can be a bit annoying sometimes. You're trying to order something online from the UK, you've got to put in a postcode, because sometimes it's a required field. And there's nothing an Irish person hates more than being told by an English person that a field is required. No, postcodes would be quite nice. There's one in Newcastle, and it sounds as if someone's asking you to sit down and have a nice cup of tea. It's this, NE1 4PG. So you've got the Lewis now, the Lewis I've got the Lewis in tonight. I was sitting opposite this young couple and they hadn't been going out for very long. And he was telling her his dream and she was listening. And that's how I knew they hadn't been going out. There's nothing more boring than listening to someone's dreams. You know, unless it's Martin Luther King. But I'm often overhearing conversations, so not always on purpose, mostly on purpose. But sometimes I don't hear the start of the conversation, like there are these two guys on a train and one said to the other, and that was how I lost my medical licence. So wish I heard started that. I quite like living in Ireland. I was looking out of my window, the mist over the mountains, and I thought, oh, that's beautiful. And the mist was coming into the room. I thought, that's amazing. And I realised I had an eye infection. Now, for a while now, I wasn't having much joy in the bedroom, but that's all changed. I have been having the most amazing sleep since I bought that new mattress. Got it in Lidl. Anyway, it's been bad. But no, the most pleasure I get in bed now is from freshly laundered sheets. But I'm quite lazy about changing them. That's why I like going to hotels, you know, go away for a clean weekend. But I think it's more a woman thing, that, like, to keep clean sheets. I don't think men are that bothered. So I was saying this in court last week, and the guy at the back went, sheets? Because it wouldn't be a male priority, would it? Unless there's like a bet on who could change the duvet cover the quickest. Like football now would be a male priority. Do you remember when I was a kid, the football would be on. My dad would be sat watching the football all Saturday. There'd just be this monotonous incantation of surnames. Like it'd be Keegan, Hoddle, Keegan, Best, Moore, Best, Keegan, Hoddle, Moore. So it's more boring than Mass on the Sunday. And that was in Latin. And then at half time you get the statistics, like you get, Manchester United have never lost a match that they've been winning at half time. What do you do with that information? They like mid-store it away in their heads, don't they? There's no room for anything else. And no wonder they can never remember to put the bins out. So I'm just back from England and I noticed that what they have there that you do have it here, but you don't take any notice. There's lots of safety warnings. You know, all in England, everywhere they've got safety warnings, and the Irish don't really worry about that. I think possibly because a lot of them are written in Irish. I was at the tube station, there's a big poster about the dangers of the escalator. And it had a picture of this woman sprawled upside down at the bottom of the escalator. And then next to it there was an army recruitment poster. No mention of any danger. But the Irish came top in the survey as the people most likely to stay put when the fire alarm goes off. I quite like that. Sure, it'll be grand. And I was in Belfast, I was looking at all the symbols in Belfast, and there was like red hand of Ulster and clenched fists of defiance. And there were these blue hands I couldn't figure out. Like one had the fingers crossed and two were holding up a globe. And I realised they were ads for the National Lottery and the Credit Union. So I remember when Ali G went to Belfast to interview Sammy Wilson, the DUP leader, and he said to him, "Is you Irish?" And Sammy Wilson said, "No, I'm British." And Ali G said, "So you was here on your holidays?" So I hope you're going to carry on laughing lots tonight, because you know it's good for your health, don't you? It strengthens your heart, lowers blood pressure. For you, that is. For us, it's the reverse. So just be aware that we're sacrificing our health for the sake of yours. Do you know the door on the way here tonight says pull? Well, thanks, but I'm under enough pressure as it is. Because comedians are a bit like prostitutes. What most people do for fun, we do for money. If we're lucky. Yeah, mostly we're just sluts. So I never thought when I was doing my university degree that my vocation would end up being staying in cheap hotels and exposing myself to strangers. Because when I was young I was really shy, and my mother would say, "Be more outgoing, be competitive." You've no killer instinct. So I pushed her down the stairs.